All right. So once again, this is Joseph Ojo, and he's currently a data engineer, and he has past experience at Kobo 360, and he's currently also working for another company on contract. So probably I can share his LinkedIn profile during the call so that I can connect with him. He's always willing to accept your connection and probably answer any questions that you have. So he's a result-driven data engineer with a passion for leveraging technology to derive actionable insights from complex data sets, and his expertise lies in designing and implementing scalable data pipelines, optimizing data workflows, and building robust analytic solutions. So here is a brief stuff about him, and probably before we continue, I would like him himself to probably talk about fun facts about him, what he does if he's not building pipelines, and very quickly, Joseph.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. Thank you very much. Um, all right. So about me, I I currently work at a fintech here. It's called Number, formerly Kudi, and where I work as a data engineer. I've been opportunity to work across multiple industries. I think I've worked across 4 industries now. We have e-logistics, we have FCMG, we have fintech, and I did a little stint in health. So, fun fact about me, I love music. My favorite genre would be what's it called, country, and our little and some projects today would center around music. So, and I love food. I love food and music. And if I'm not working, basically, and I'm not involved in community work. So in community work, maybe personal knowledge or answering questions or things like that, or I'm just engaging in conversations with fellow data professionals. I am someone that like uh, experiences, so I'm always out about to the new places, the fun things to do around, and things like that. So that is that about me, and going straight into what we're going to be doing today. So what we are going to be doing today is actually very,
Wait,
very
hold on, very quickly. Before you go into what,
okay.
yeah,
All
we
right.
are going to do for today, let me quickly chip in something. So, this workshop was organized by Orbit Learning Community, and it's a community that helps data professionals and enthusiasts in order to like get started into tech right away in the data space. So, this is one of the sessions we are handling, and we are also had like a couple of sessions, and we have a training also in the pipeline. So in the past, we've done building, leveraging modern data stack from scratch for quality pipelines, where we leverage tools like Airbyte, Docker, Python, dbt, Snowflake, Great Expectation, Airflow in combination to build quality data pipelines. And in the pipeline, we have currently uh, uh, want to go about training on using R for uh, data analysis and machine learning. So this is targeted at students, professionals, or researchers who want to leverage the R programming language for data analysis and machine learning. So if you're interested, I'm going to drop the information on the chat, and also drop the group invite to the Orbit community. So on the chat, so you can join the WhatsApp community, and also probably I'm probably going to drop like the info as regards the next training we're having. So if you're interested, you can sign up, and we would like to have you. So, and regarding the WhatsApp community, we'd like to have you join so that you can share your expertise and also at the side learn from industry experts. So with that being said, I'll just drop all this information in the chat. So I'm going to mute my now so that Joseph can do his stuff. Thank you. I hope you have a wonderful session today.
All right. Thank you very much, Chief. All right. So to what we are going to be doing today, earlier I said that it's going to be centered around music, and I would want this session to be interactive. So in the beginning, I'm going to be I'm going to be carrying out a little survey, and the survey is, I think we're about 14 people on the call. So out of all the 14, how many of us love listening to music? And out of the people that love listening to music, maybe you might not really love it, but you do it maybe when you are free, just listen to something nice, depending on your taste in music. And if you are doing that, I think it was a few years back, the streaming platforms was not that popular, maybe because of the part of the world that I am in. But back then, what we usually do is that we usually download music on our phone, then we listen to it. So you need to have the music to be able to listen to it. But with the likes of the streaming giants now, you don't really need to have. You can listen to any music you want at any time. So the survey that I want to carry out now is that okay. If you don't listen to music, that is fine. I want to like have a survey just to see the streaming platforms that's very very popular among the attendees here. So maybe you can just drop it in the chat. Or if you want to unmute your mic also, you can unmute your mic and just say it. I just want to carry out a short survey just to see that maybe it's something that we can relate to before I go ahead. Do you understand what I'm saying?
We can unmute our mic if you want to like respond to any question.
Okay. I think someone is typing. Okay, so basically, I'm asking which streaming platform, music streaming platform we are using. So some might be using more than one. I use more than one. So
I use
So when it's
Spotify.
so when it, okay, so just to clarify, when it says music platform, just talking about like of Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, uh, Audio Mac, etc., etc.
yeah, and these are like okay, okay. So I'm saying Spotify and YouTube Music. So for the Spotify users, I think the platform that started it was actually Spotify. I might be wrong. So there's something called Unwrapped. Spotify Unwrapped, and this is a yearly thing that Spotify introduced. I think it was about 2 or 3 years now that at the end of the year, they are going to give you the analytics of what you listen to all through the year. So they're going to tell you your top artists. Okay, these are the artists that you listen to the most. These are your most played song. These are your most played genre and some other things. So, and they're going to tell you the total amount of time that you spent listening to music on their platform. So, and I understand that YouTube Music also started this also. I think theirs is monthly and they also do yearly too. So that is what we want to do today. And the pipeline is very, very simple. So we want to build a pipeline to collect user or personal listening data from Spotify and store it to use for analytics. So let's say you want to maybe do an analysis on what you've been listening to, who are your favorite artists, or you might want to do it across several platforms. So maybe you're listening to, for people that use more than one platform now, you can get data from YouTube Music, get data from Spotify, and try to analyze across multiple platforms to see, okay, across these two platforms, who am I listening to the most? So that is that. But we're going to be sticking with Spotify for today. Okay, so before I go ahead, one more survey. Um, is there anybody here that that is going to be hearing the phrase or the word API for the first time. Or you can just drop it in the chat or just unmute your mic and say it. So just to have an idea of if I need to go about explaining what API is and how deep I need to go into that. Okay. So API, the most common illustration or analogy that people use to explain what API is the restaurant concept. No, you go to the restaurant, you want to order food. Now you won't go to the kitchen to like prepare your food yourself and take it to the table and start eating it. So they're going to have some people that would attend to you, and those people are usually called waiter or waitress. So you talk to these people, you tell them what you want, they go to the kitchen, they place the order, then when the food is ready, they bring it back for you to eat. Now, that is the popular analogy, and I think that is what we all will most likely be able to relate with the most. So now, we want to do analysis on our Spotify data. Now, Spotify has made those data available to us through what they call an API. Spotify won't give us access to their storage to go there and take the data by ourselves. But they built a system whereby we can tell the system or the API the exact data that we want, and it's going to return it to us. So for example, now if I want to have my personal or my bio data from Spotify, it's a separate request. I want my top artists, that's a separate request. So they've made these several what they call endpoints that one can call to get different data. But for today, we're going to be you talking about the recently played, just to get the data of the music that someone has been listening to. So I'm going to be sharing my screen and we're going to be getting started. One other survey, is there anybody here that is not like, I haven't done anything with Python before? Okay, let me just continue. Now, for most organization, uh, let me not say most, some of them have what I've been talking about called APIs that people can use uh, to improve the user experience of the application that you are using. So this Spotify API that we are using now, there are other aspects to it apart from just getting the recently played. So you can improve on what Spotify has to improve your own user experience. So now, and other platforms have this too, and even social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, and the likes are what we call APIs that people can build on or can get data from. So now, and before you can use someone's API, because of you're not the one that built it, you won't really understand exactly how you should go about it. So that is why you would see what they call a documentation page. So what a documentation page would do for you is that the documentation page would tell you the available endpoints or the available request or the foods that you can order, that okay, this is available. Anything that you don't say, it's not available. So, and they're going to tell you that okay, if you want to get this, this is what you need to do, and this is the instruction you need to send. And when you send this instruction, this is what is you are going to receive. This is the response you are going to receive. And based on the instruction, they are also going to tell you that, okay, these are the possible response that you can get. So for example, the response can either be successful or not successful. So if it's not successful, they're going to tell you the different kind of unsuccessful response that you can get. So that is what a documentation does for someone. It sort of gives you like this guide on how to approach using their system. And for this Spotify, we are going to be going to developer.spotify.com. So let me just start from the beginning. So you just let me open a new tab. You can just search for Spotify developer, let's say API. So, and one of the first things that you're going to see is going to be a link to the documentation page. Now, before I go into this, just for some people that may be hearing Spotify Unwrapped for the first time. So before this session, I took the liberty to search, maybe I can see some image. So, and I learned that this is only available when Spotify makes it available. So if I want to see analytics on my listening habits, I would have to wait to like the December period when Spotify makes it available, and that is a lot of time to wait. So now this is an example of what you'll be seeing, like this person's screenshot now. This is showing that this is the person's top genre. That's the category of music that the person is listening to. You can see this one is vintage, Broadway, West End, operetta, classical, and Broadway. So these are the kind of analytics that Spotify makes available, and you also can generate the same thing if you can get all if you can get the data of all your listening habits from January to December. You can also recreate the same thing. So what I'll be doing today is I'm going to be walking us through how we can get this data from Spotify. All right. Does anyone have any question before I proceed? Okay. I'll take that as a no. So when you go to the Spotify API website, you can see now this like the different categories of what you can read. So they've sort of put everything into section to make the navigation easy. You can see here now we have reference, and here we have APIs where you can see the overview, how to get started, concept, maybe tutorial, and some how-tos. And to your right, you are going to see like, I'll call it a UI where you can just click to get like sample data. So for example, now if I click this now, this is going to get the data of what I'm listening to or what I've listened to. So now what? Because of I need this data as a file, I can't be coming to this place and be doing it manually. This sort of this process is actually too manual, and for someone in the data field or even a data engineer should not be doing this. So now I'm going to be taking us through how we can get the same thing without not interacting with the UI. All right. So now let me start from overview. So overview now, in this overview now, this is a step, this is the series of steps on how to get started. And following this now, they say that, okay, this is where the magic begins, and this is the steps you need to follow to do stuff with the Spotify API. And the first thing that you need to do is that you need to log into your dashboard, your Spotify account dashboard. I'm already logged in, but I'm just going to click this. So if you are not logged in on the browser, it's going to ask you to log in. So, and after logging in, you most likely be saying something like this. So you might not be seeing this because this was created before the session. So this might be blank. So if this is blank now, so let's go back to the page. The next step says that we need to click on create an app and select web API. So let me go to this place. I'm going to click on create an app. I'm going to give it a name. So let me call it my Spotify Unwrapped. And I'm going to give it a description, uh, get the details of get my listening habits, get my listening habits. So this any field that you see that is asterisk with red, that means that it is important and you need to fill it. So this is not important, and I'm going to leave this black. So now this is called redirect URLs. So now before you can use Spotify, so just to avoid that I am not getting the listening habit of someone else. Spotify will need to know who exactly is making the action. So if I'm calling the Spotify to say, okay, I need the list of the music I've listened to, how will Spotify know that I'm the one making the call? So that this is where this redirect URLs would come into play. And when we get into the code, I'm going to talk about this again. So before you can even make, there are some calls that if you want to make to Spotify, you need to like authenticate. Just like if you should go to the Spotify web app, you need to like log in to actually to actually take some action. So in this case now, when you authorize now, Spotify knows that, okay, it's Joseph that is making this call. I need to send Joseph's data. Spotify should not send me Abiodun music that he has listened to for the past 2 months. So if they should do that, they might have a lawsuit on their hand because of they are exposing someone else's data to a third party and things like that. So now, if we want to authenticate with Spotify, that means that we need to like go to the Spotify website, and when we are done, Spotify would need to take us back to where we are coming from. So when we are going to Spotify, we are going to tell Spotify that, okay, I want to authenticate, but after authenticating, take me back to this place. So this is what this callback is saying. So when after authenticating with Spotify, Spotify would take the person back to this redirect URL. So in this case now, we are going to use a local host URL. So let me just copy this somewhere. I have it listed somewhere. 1 second. Okay, it's here. Okay, so let me just copy this here. So I'm going to paste it here. So this is what they call a local address. So if I should put this address in my web browser, it's not going to, I mean, if I should send you this URL, you will not be able to visit it because of it is not connected to the internet. So this does not need to be a, a URL that is connected to the internet. So you want to use your local uh, path or local URL for this. And please let's note this and let's note the port. So this is the address, this is the IP address of your local computer. This is the port. So we are saying port 888. So where the basically the application, like the server is running and the endpoint that Spotify would redirect the person to. So that is that about the redirect URL. So in this place, they say we should select the web API. So I'm going to come back here. I'm going to select the web API. And based on what you need, if you want to do something and maybe web API is not what you need. So let's say you click on this, to read more about web APIs. So you can actually, oh, it's the same page. Okay, web API said that retrieve metadata from Spotify content, control playback, or get recommendation. So maybe what you need is in, let's say, ads API. So you can, let's see, so let's say somebody that is running ads on Spotify. So to see how the ad is doing, the person will most likely be using this. So, but in this case now, the web API sort of do what you want it to do. So I'm going to click in on the web API and you need to accept the terms and condition. So then after this, I'll click on save and the application will be created. So now let me go back to the guide that's we are following. Okay, so I've done this. Now, they said that once I've created that, I will have access to the app credentials. So these are the things that we are going to use to authenticate with Spotify. So now, after creating the app, this is where we landed. So where is the credential? So to locate your credential now, you need to go to settings. So when you go to settings, I can see we have the client ID and we have the client secret. So to get that, you just click on it and it's showing both the client ID and client secret. So these two things are what we are going to be using to authenticate. And if you should scroll down, you see that most of what we are seeing here is some of the things that we supplied while creating the application. So, and these are some other things that doesn't really matter, but based on your use case, you might be going to this section. So let me go back to the guide. So now we now have access to the app credentials. This will be required for API authorization and to obtain an access token. So the what this is saying that okay, the client's ID and client secret is required for authorization. Now, what is authorization? Authorization is a way of, I don't use the word authentication. So if I'm performing an action, that action needs to be checked that, okay, am I qualified to be performing that action? Now, how will the system know that if I'm qualified? I would need like a key or a password. I don't want to use the word password. I would need something to like say, oh, I'm authorized to do this. Maybe like an ID get like an ID card that I'm going to show, or I'm just going to swipe. Then I will get access to that. So from this explanation here, they say that authorization refers to the process of granting a user or application access permission to Spotify data and features. So without this authorization now, you can't have access to Spotify data. And what this page is showing is that, okay, how we can get this, how we can be authorized. So I wrote a code for Spotify. The process is not that straightforward. I recently learned that it's not as straightforward as I imagined it to be. So, but I'm just going to go over the code for that. That is not the main ETL code, just the code to actually get the authorization code. And there are different ways that one can actually use to authorize. I think this is one, and that one client credentials and implicit grants. And based on the authorization flow or something, these are the things that you can do or that is required. So now, how do we get this token or this authorization code that we can use to get the data? 1 second. Now, please confirm that you can see VS Code. Okay. All right, so this is the credential that I was using to test. So I'm just going to update this to the new application that I just created. So to do that, I'm going to be going to this place. I'll copy this client ID. I'll come here. I'll replace. Then I will click on view client secrets. I'll come here. I would replace. And the direct URL. You can say this is the same URL that was supplied during the creation of the application. So now I have these things here. So now these are what we call credentials, and this should not be left out in the open. So the best practice for this is to actually have these things in what they call an environmental file. And to do this now, I just need to copy this. You create a file called .env, then you come here and just have it here. And I'm going to call this client ID. Then I will do the same thing for secret also. Sorry, that is ID. Sorry, that is secret. This is client ID. So this is just to separate the code from the this is just to separate the code from the credential. So now I've sort of I've hidden the credential now. So how do I bring that credential into use in this place? So to do that now, we are going to use the what they call the OS library. And we're going to be using that to get the credential. So that credential will be get using the key. So I'm going to be doing os.get environmental variable, and I'll be passing the key name, which is the client secret. So this is the same, this will evaluate to be the same thing as it was before. But in this way now, I'm not exposing the secret in the code. So I'm going to do the same thing for the client ID. I'll say get env client ID. So that is that. And this is the redirect URI that was applied during the creation of the application. And this is what we call scope. Now, what is scope? When you are authorizing with Spotify, you need to tell Spotify that, okay, these are the areas that I want to be able to access. These are the data that I want to be able to access. And if you can see this string now, or these different words, you can say, okay, user read private, user read email, and user read recently played. So the scope that you pass to Spotify is what Spotify would give you access to. So I don't know if we've ever linked an application to maybe Google, maybe Google Drive. You are going to see something that, okay, this application will be able to read your email address. This application will be able to do this. This application will be able to do that. So that is what we call scope. So we are telling Spotify the permissions that we need. So without this now, so if we are trying to perform an action and we did not tell Spotify that, okay, we are going to be needing this permission, Spotify will not allow us to perform that action because it is what we call it is beyond the scope or insufficient scope. So now this is, I'm just setting some configuration. This place, I'm just generating a random string that I'm using for a state. So why am I doing that? So let's say I have two steps. The first step does something. Then after that, now it needs to do the second step. But there might be a third party that became aware of the second system. So the person can just go directly to the second system. So how do we make sure that it is the first system that is calling the second system? So this is where the state is coming from. This is the reason for the state, but I did not later use it. So what the state is doing in this place is that now when the first when the first step is done, it sort of save like a, let me call it OTP. Then when the second is called, now you need to pass that OTP. So what the second system will now do is that the second system would check that, okay, the OTP that was passed, is it the same one that the first system generated? So if a third party is coming to hit that second system, there is no way that the probabilities are very low that they are going to get the right OTP or the right word or the right phrase or key phrase that the first system generated. So this is an act of security, just to confirm that, okay, it's no one is having on authenticated access to the system. So now, what this is doing, we want to get authorization code. So in this place now, we are just building some parameters that we are sending to Spotify. So if you look at this URL now, you see that the URL is for this format called account spotify.authorize, and we are passing this to it. So we are saying, okay, we want an authorization code. This is the client ID. This is the scope of permission that this person wants. This is the URL you should redirect the person after a successful authentication or authorization and the state. Then after that, we constructed the endpoint based on the parameters and we return it. So what this will do is that when we go to the login endpoint, it's going to redirect us to Spotify. So an example of that will be, so let's say when you go to a website and you see something like sign in with Gmail. So that is an example of this. So when you click on sign in with Gmail now, it takes you to the Google platform, where if your email is not signed in, you will need to put in your email, you need to put in your password, and based on some security, you might need to maybe click on yes on your phone, or need to use like what's this thing called, like all these two-factor authenticator app to get the code and put in there before it authorizes you. Then after a successful authorization, it takes you back to the application. But now, to better understand what the redirect does is that now, when Google takes you back to the application that you are coming from, it is not taking you to the login page where you click on sign in with Google. It will most likely take you to the home page. So that is the redirect URL. So from the login page, we are going to Google, and we are telling Google that in that one, that, okay, Google, if this guy should successfully log in, send this person back to this endpoint. So that is what is happening here. It's very, very similar. So we are going to go to the login endpoint. Then after that, we redirect the user to the space to authorize. And after that, Spotify call this endpoint, redirect the user to this endpoint. And what does this endpoint do? So when Spotify is redirecting the user back to the platform, Spotify will send some details like a kind of a passcode that, okay, this person has been successfully authorized. Now, that passcode now is what we are now getting here. We are now sending that code to another endpoint to get a token which is needed to be able to get the recently played data. So that is basically what it is. app name here. So now I'm going to run this, and I don't know if it's going to ask me to authenticate again because of I've authenticated before. But let me just do that. I'm going to update my env. Now let me run the application called Python 3 Spotify OAuth. Okay, sorry, I have this running. Yeah, so let me just close this. Let me save this again and run this. So now I have this running here. If I click on this now, you can see this is like a normal web page, but I did not say anything for this startup. So let me update this to just say and do maybe hello world. Let me just update this. Okay. Okay, so let me visit the link again. You can see now I have hello world now. So I need to go to the login page. Now I'm going to the login page now. This is supposed to redirect me to the yeah. It was network. I thought it was the Danish people. So now this has taken me to the Spotify website. And even if you should look at this now, you see that it is similar to what I said. Okay, you can see allow Spotify to connect to the app name. And if I should allow this, I'll be giving this application the access to see my email, my Spotify subscription, the country, and some content listing and some other things. Now I can see the app will be able to see the name, username, profile picture, Spotify followers, public playlist, and also the application will be able to see the recently played. So this is the point at which the person would authenticate and give Spotify the go ahead to allow the application to access that data. Without this, the application cannot access the data. So I'm going to click on agree. And if you click on agree, I can see now that the Spotify took me to what we call this endpoint, which is the redirect URI. And if you look at it now, it is showing a token. Now, this token is what the ETL pipeline will need to get the recently played data. So now let's go back to the guide. Now we have the access token. Now we need to use the access token in our API request. Now you can follow the getting started and all those steps now. So we've actually done this, and if you should go through this guide, this is basically what we've been doing. Now to the ETL part. So far, does anyone have any question before we go to the ETL part? All right, I would take that as a no. Now, what is ETL? ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. And ETL is one of the design patterns. And it is it's a pattern that's very common in data engineering that people use to extract data from multiple sources. They use it to transform data to fit a specific model or a specific schema before saving it to a storage. And that storage can be a database, can be a data warehouse, can be maybe even an object storage like S3 or something else. So basically, they are dropping the data somewhere. So, and the design pattern, one of the design patterns is ETL, which stands for extract, transform, and load. And yeah, I have an example of a simple example actually of getting the data from the API, the recently played data from the API, then doing a little bit transformation and saving it as a file in the local computer. So a transformation now, when people say transformation, transformation can actually mean different things. So transformation can be that, okay, maybe you're just changing the structure of the data. I think we have different types of data. We have the structured data. Structured data is when like your data is already in rows and columns, and we have what we call semi-structured data. And is this semi-structured data that API returns? So if API is returning semi-structured data to you, that means you need to convert it to a structured format, and that is a transformation. So a transformation can be as simple as you converting data from structured from semi-structured to structured, or it might just be that, okay, you are like creating new columns, or you are removing columns, or you are joining, or you are doing anything. As long as you are doing something to the data just to enrich it or something like that, it can count as a transformation. So the simple transformation that we are doing here is that we're just converting it from a semi-structured data. And what do I mean by a semi-structured data? Semi-structured data, let me see if I can get an example, is data that you will have. So let me just get an example for you. Jason. Okay, I don't need to go far. 1 second. There was a place where okay, now this is an example of a semi-structured data. As you can see, this is not in rows and columns. So, but if you should convert this to rows and columns, that means that you've actually transformed the data. So, and as simple as that, that is a transformation. All right. So now, extract is the design ETL, the design pattern, and another design pattern that's very, very common is the ELT, which is the extract load transformation, and that is going to be a topic for another day for another person. So ETL, a design pattern that is used to extract data from sources, transform it to fit a model or a schema before saving it. And if you look at what you want to do today now, it actually follows that pattern. We have the data in API, we want to get it, we want to convert it, and we want to save it. So that is a simple ETL. So now, in some APIs, so APIs now, you don't need to send what we call an authorization code or maybe an API key to use that data. It is called public endpoint or public API. So that means that I don't need to do any authorization. I don't need to do any authentication to use it. If I just call the APIs, it gives me the data. But then in the real world, the APIs that you most likely be using would be behind an authentication or an authorization wall. So it won't just be open to anyone. So, and that is what we are doing, the same thing with Spotify. So this is the extract function. And what the extract function is doing is that now we are passing the token to it. The token is what we got from this place, from the first step that I took us with. So without this token now, we can't get the recently played data. Now the function is getting that token. It is creating what they call a request header. So we have different types of code or token. So this one is the bearer token. And this is the popular one that I've seen across the small time that I've spent in the industry. So we have what we call the endpoint. So you can say this endpoint is the recently played endpoint, and we are passing the header alongside with it now. Without this header now, this request will not be successful. So what this function is doing is that it is extracting the recently played data from the endpoint, and it is returning that data without not doing anything. Now, after that now, we have the transform function or the transform step. So what that transform step is just doing is that transform step now is taking the data that was extracted and it is converting it from the from a semi-structured format to a structured format. And I use a library here called Pandas. It's also very popular in the industry, and those some people don't like it due to some things about it performance-wise. So when you're working with a semi-structured data, you see what I'm using here called JSON normalize. It actually make life easy. So without this now, if I want to convert that data from a semi-structured to a structured, it might be taking me lines that is like tens. I don't think it's going to get 200, but it's not going to be a small lines of code to actually convert that to a structured format, because now I would need to be going over each of the record one by one. Now this is going to return 50. So this endpoint only returns 50. It can't return anything more than 50. And even after returning 50, you can't make it return something else again. So that means now, if you want to get your listening data, you want to get it, let's say from January to date, or maybe you want to start today now to get all your listening data. Now that means that you will need to be running this scripts or this pipeline maybe frequently, maybe every day or every week. I don't really know most likely every day or maybe every 6 hours, just to get all the data that's the music that you're listening to. So now, without this JSON normalized now, because of this is going to return 50 now, that means that I will need to go over the 50 one by one and be doing some transformation from other transformation to actually put this in a structured format. But with this now, I just need to tell it the path to what I want to convert. So when you call an API would send several things alongside the data that you need. So in this case now, now let me go back to the web page. Now let's inspect this now. Okay, let me use this now. You can see this is a GET request. When you are calling an API, we have different types of request type. They call it verb. So in this one now, we have the GET, we have the post, we have the put, we have the delete. But most times the two common ones are GET and post. So GET is when you want to actually get is descriptive, when you want to get something from an API, and post is when you want to save something and you want that API to do it for you. So you use post when you want to send data to the system. You use GET when you want to get data from the system. So now in this case, that are saying that you are going to send a GET request to this endpoint, and these are some additional things that you can add to it. You can add the limit, which is going to be an integer, and this is the maximum number of items to return. The default is 20. So what this is saying is that if you don't send a limit, it's going to be returning 20, and it has a minimum of 1 and a maximum of 50. It can never send more than 50. This is basically what it is saying, and they give us an example. So, and after it can also take in an after. So if you want Spotify to return music that we've listened to after a certain period in time. So we are going to pass in a time. So this is what we call a unique timestamp. And just to show that this is an actual date time, we'll copy this and just say Unix timestamp date. So if I should take this now, I copied what I have here. So let me copy this just to show that it is an actual date. So if I should paste it here now and click on this button called timestamp to human date. So now the date that is displayed on that page is Thursday, January 19, 2017, 1 a.m. That's 1:30 a.m. So what that is saying is that send me 50 record after this time. So you can actually tell it, okay, I want records after a certain period. So now, as we have after, we also have before. So before is just like the inverse of the after. So I want to get data after February 1st. Now, the before, I want to get data before February 1st. It's just inverse. Now, when I was talking about API, I said that in some situations, in some cases, most cases, which is the standard thing, they are going to give you an example of the response that you can get. Now, they've given us what we should send or what we can send. They, they are also telling us, okay, after sending that, this is what Spotify will return to you. So you can see now 200 is okay, it's successful. If it is successful, you are going to see a page set of tracks. Now, the maximum number of items in this response are set in the query or by default. So if you say 30 or you say 20 or maybe 50, so that is, they're going to send you back the limit. Then after that, they're going to send you the next URL to get the next 50. But most times, what I've discovered is that even if you send a request to this next URL, Spotify will not send you any data. Spotify will only send you 50, and that is all. And after that, now they will send a cursor used to find the next item. So, for example, now that when they send you data, they're going to send it, okay, this is the before time and after time. So when you say after time, now, so that means that it's going to be starting after the last item. Then after that, this is that key that they are returning the total number of items. Then we have this an array of the play history objects. So this is where the actual data is. So this is a list of all the music that has been listening to, and each of them in that list will contain the track, the music that the person listened to. And inside that music now you see the album, the artist, and the countries that the music is available in, and some other details. And after that, you can see the played at when this music was actually played and some other things. So now they've given us the sample request and the sample response, but some weird situations, you might not get a successful response. So now they've also given us some other responses that you can also get. So now in this one, now we have the 401 bad or expired token. That means if you should try to send a token that we got here that is not correct or it is expired, you will get this one called 401. And you can see they are giving us, okay, when that happens, we're going to send you a status and we're going to send you a message, a short description of the cause of the error. And after this, we have some other one like that, some other response that you can get. So for this photo now, you can see that, oh, you made more calls than Spotify would allow. So now that is that about the documentation. Now let me go back to the code now. That is basically what the extract is doing. Then transform. I said that JSON normalize make life easy to convert semi-structured data to structured data. Without this now, I would most likely have to write like maybe more than 10 lines of code just to get that. And trying to make that work, it can be prone to error. But when you have something that just works out of the box, why not use it? So we are doing this now to just get the list, just to convert the part that hold the list of the history. So after doing that now, we've had another step that transforms the data to the structure that we want. We've extracted, we've transformed now. The third step now is to load. And the load can be saved to any storage. You can load to a cloud bucket, you can load to a database, you can load to what we call a this thing, SFTP server, you can load to a data warehouse, you can load to different places now. Or you can even send it to someone else. So in this case now, we are saving this to our local directory. So when I run this ETL, simple ETL code now, a file will be created on my computer that is going to be called recently played.csv. So now this is the 3-step of the ETL: extract, transform, and load. Now, I've written the function for the 3 now. How do I need to specify the order that I need to run. So that is what this is doing here. So this other function, I'm just specifying the order they need to run and dependency. So in the first place now, we're going to run the extract step. We are going to pass in the token. And after doing that now, we're going to get the response. from the extract, which is the result of the API. We are saving it as raw data, and we are passing that response to this transform step. And after transform is done, it's going to save it to a variable called transform data. And we are passing that transform data to the load step that's going to create the CSV file. So in this place now, we are getting the token from the environmental variable, and we are specifying the name of the file. And I'm doing print to confirm that, okay, the token was actually gotten. And I'm calling the function that sort of managed the whole process. So this is a walkthrough of all the simple ETL code. Now I need to run this. So to run this now, I just need to run my Python 3 because I'm on a Linux. If you're on a Windows, you most likely use just Python. And a Mac, you can use, I think on Mac also, you can use Python and Python 3. No, it's Python 3. So Python 3, then I'll call it webinar.py. So if I should please note this space now, I am not having any CSV file now. But after running this file now, after running this Python file, a CSV file will be created. But in this case, a CSV file is not created because of there is no token. Now I need to activate my environmental variable and run it again. One second. Oh, I did not update the token. So let me update the token, paste, and activate it again and run. All right. Oh, in this place, I named the token, and the code I'm calling it as specify token. So the name of the environmental variable must actually match. One second, let's do some troubleshooting. So let me authenticate again. Let me confirm the client ID that I'm using.
In your code, it
Using
seems like you
03.
put like specify space token. Is that what I'm seeing? Line 29. Is there a space or underscore?
Yeah, it's underscore, and it's
No, that's
getting the
not.
token. This is token here. Yeah, I'm printing the
Okay.
token here.
The issue is on
So
line
let me just.
15. The issue is on line 15. It's telling you it does not have a colon name items.
Yeah. But I did it. I should have items. So that is why I'm printing the response to see what is happening here. So I did it. I should have items. So I need to print the response status code. So let me run it again to see what is happening. So I'm getting 401. Maybe I've run it too many times. Okay, invalid access token. So the token that I'm passing to this is not the token that I'm supposed to be passing to it. So let me just confirm that I'm using the right credential, because maybe I'm mixing this credential up. 0393 0393 client ID, client secret. Client secret is 93. All right, so let me authenticate again. A second. One
And the other thing I
second.
noticed is, can you remove the codes from the Spotify token?
No, that is not it. But one of the reasons why I even added a code is because of the token might contain something that would break it.
Yeah, I don't think this code is really affecting negatively.
Yeah. the code
I think you
should
have
not, I
mistakenly added
didn't.
the R to that token.
Okay, let me just
Check that
copy it
Spotify
again.
token again. Okay, I think it's correct.
Maybe the token that oh, there's an S at the end. So maybe the token that the credentials that I use to generate the token is different, is for another application. Okay, so let me try to authenticate again. So let me go to login. All right, so let me take this token. Village people just be following somebody everywhere. Okay, let me paste this. Let me go back to this place. Do source dot env again. Python 3. Maybe another py. Oh, praise God. So maybe the token got expired, or I have two different applications. So maybe I was using the test application that I did before the webinars. I was using that to authenticate, and I was using it with another application. So maybe that is why. And you see, after running this code now, a file was created here called recently played. And if I should open to this file, I don't have a preview extension here. So you can see this is the data of my listening bit, and this is like for last month. I don't think I've used Spotify this month. So let me see. Let me just get the extension to preview this. Okay. So while this is installing, does anyone have any question? So Excel is not supported on my. I can't use Excel on my computer due to the OS. That is why I don't have an Excel application. But I should be able to use this library editor. So there is one. So let me try to open it. So where's the file? Okay. Yeah. So I have this.
Are you using the latest Ubuntu?
I think I'm using 20. Does Ubuntu now support Excel?
And no, there are different. If we use, there's WPS Excel. There's this one, this library
I don't like that. I don't. I hardly use it. I hardly use it. So maybe that is why I did not pay too much attention to it. So I did not. I mean, one can also just specify the columns that one's interested in. So in this case now, what you'll be interested in is the track name, the track popularity, maybe the track number, the context, list or song or show, something like that. So you most likely not be interested in all the columns there. So you most likely just be interested in, especially what you'll be interested in the most is this play that and the song. And also the data contains details about the artist. So you can just further to do that and extend it to get a more, what's it called? A more robust information about what you are listening. But based on this, I can get my top songs that I listen to and kind of album type. Is it an album or a single? Okay, how many songs am I listening to per day? Okay, which period of the day do I listen to song the most? Maybe from this data now, you can say, okay, maybe I listen to more songs around the hour of, let's say, 4 to 6 a.m. or something like that. So those are the kind of things that one can try to tell from this data. So that is that about the simple ETL pipeline on Spotify data. And now this is just Python script now. So if you want to actually run this, you want to automate this now, you most likely be using what we call maybe something like a scheduler. And if you are using like maybe a Unix system, like maybe a Mac or a Linux, you can use what we call a cron job. You can create a cron job to run the script maybe every day, and it's going to create a file, a CSV file. So in that kind of situation, you want to make the file name to be dynamic. So you want to make the file name to be like maybe the date that it is running, so that the files don't get, you are not overwriting the file. Because if you use a single name, if the code should run today, by the time it runs tomorrow, the previous day file is going to be replaced. So you want to keep history. That is why you might want to use the date for that. And that is if you're on like maybe a Mac or a Linux. But if you're on what's it called, Windows now, I think they have task scheduler that you can use to run scripts at a certain time. And on the cloud, on AWS, we have all the code. You can use EventBridge or EventBridge scheduler. On Azure, we have Logic apps and all those things. And you can even go as far as just bringing in one of the orchestration tools out there. So yeah, this is a simple ETL pipeline. A pipeline can be simple as this and can be very, very complex. Yeah. So that is everything about today's workshop. I don't know if anyone have any question that they want to ask, maybe about what we just did, or maybe any other question. Okay. If you just have, yeah.
So you are the question and answer piece, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have any question you want to ask Joseph, you can unmute yourself and drop your question. If you feel like you're in a noisy environment that you won't be able to like unmute yourself and talk, you can drop it on the chat. This session is supposed to last for 2 hours, but there's a simple ETL pipeline, so there was not much stuff to like talk about. So we'll leave like the next 10-15 minutes for questions. Your question might not even relate to what you're actually doing right now. It might just be what you think or what's unique clarity on your general ETL pipeline, right? Or even ELT, talk about general pipeline in general. So you can always ask the question. I think David has a question. Please proceed with your question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, please, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I was going to ask, apart from using a Python script, are there other ways of setting up an ETL pipeline? Because I'm from a DevOps and automation background, so when I hear pipeline, my head goes to other tools like GitHub Actions and all those kind of things. So, I mean, apart from running the scripts like this, what other way can one set up an ETL pipeline?
So are you asking that what other tool that one can use to build a data pipeline?
Yeah, yes. Thanks. Yeah.
Okay. So before I go into that, I intentionally just added the word data to it. There are different pipelines. So, but
Okay, yeah.
when we say data pipelines, now that makes it specific to the data part of things. So I understand that when you say pipelines now, it can be like a Bitbucket pipeline or maybe a CI/CD pipeline that deploys applications. So people have different pipelines, and pipeline can mean different things to different person. Yeah. Okay. So now for data pipelines now, there are different tools that people can use to build a data pipeline. So it can be we have what they call a no-code and a no-code tool. So that means you will have a drag and drop interface that you can use to. So all these all these components now, they would have like a pre-built component for extract, transform, and load. So for example, now if you should drag in the component for extract, maybe you would specify the source where you want to extract and maybe some kind of configuration. And for the transformation step, you would specify, like you just click on buttons on the steps you want to do and this load where you want to store the data. So we have that. And for the code part, so there are different languages out there, but Python is the common one. One can't go wrong with using Python for data pipeline because of the community and the libraries out there. But there are other ones that I've come across or do hear people talk about. So we have what they call Rust. Some people try to use Go, and in one community like that, someone made a case about using .NET for building pipelines. So I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, you did. Thanks.
All right. John, yeah, please go ahead. And for the question on the group, the code will be shared with Abiodun. The two code, there are two codes. One to get the authorization code, which is a fax application that you can run like a normal Python script to get the authorization. And after getting the authorization, you take the code to the ETL to generate the what's it called? To generate the data. So John, let's have you.
All right. Thank you very much for the session. Thank you for like the tutorial or training, the whole session. Like I really enjoyed the whole thing. Yeah, so my question, I joined very late, so I don't know if you explained from the beginning. So my question is this. When I'm thinking ETL, I always think complete automation, like down from the authorization to the extraction, transformation, and loading part of it. But I noticed you follow the approach of having to send a request to the login endpoint to get, then it automatically redirects to the callback endpoint to get your token. Then you now send the real extraction point. So I'm thinking, what is the idea behind that? Because I am assuming you can actually do all these things with a function, even without sending, like having to go through an endpoint. Probably just one particular Python function can do all these requests for you and save your token in an environment variable. I'm just thinking, what was the idea behind using a Flask for logging endpoint, sending it? And do you think it's appropriate in a case where you want to do a complete automation for your data extraction?
Okay. So this is a very unique use case. So in some APIs, they will most likely have what we call secret key or something like that. You don't really need to um, even if you are getting a token, you just need to make a request and the token will be sent to you. You don't really need to go these more steps. So why we need a Flask API? So I don't know if you were around where I was talking about signing with Google.
No, I joined very late, like I think 15 minutes or
Okay.
20.
Okay. So now it's not we are going to Spotify to do the authorization. So we are not directly making a request to Spotify. So we are making a request to Spotify. The person authenticates with Spotify. Then Spotify get back to us with a code that we will use to get the token. Even if you can, and understand the request, you can wait for redirect, but then it's not even. You can just. I don't think request would actually fit in this use case. So if I want to go about this normally, how will I do this now? I think this is where I will just bring in Selenium to automate the process of opening up the web page. I don't know if you saw where I need to like sign into Spotify and Spotify redirected me. So that
Oh
means
no.
there's like a user action to be done. And when you are interacting with systems that require like like a human interaction, you can do these things with requests. And if I should start going into like let's say Selenium, I'll be making the project complicated because now we have to start talking what is Selenium, how to open up a window, how to do button clicks, how to and all those things. So a single function to do that, I don't think it's possible. So, let me run the. Oh, I've stopped sharing my screen. You saw when I authenticated with Spotify, right?
Yeah, I think I saw that part. Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, if you want to do that, it's going to be a lot of headache. Another thing that's coming to you is that maybe you might probably want to just reconstruct the request that the browser is making, and it's just I don't see it working with just request.
Yeah, I think I get it now. I get it. Thank you very much.
Okay. So the authentication is doing on Spotify, and Spotify is telling us, okay, was this user successfully authenticated or not? And based on that, they send in extra values.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Any other question? Me, I have a question I want to ask.
So
Yeah,
there was a question on the chat. Like, please, will the code be
all right.
shared on any drive? I'm going to request for the code
Yeah.
from Joseph. So he's going to share it with me, and we're going to upload this. I would like to confirm from Joe. Is it good? Are you okay with it if you upload this video to YouTube?
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to upload the video to YouTube, and the code will be shared under the description on YouTube. So that is how we're going to go about it. So you can search by the name Building ETL Pipeline with Python, and you can also use a YouTube channel name, which I'm going to provide by the chat for the end of the session to also look for it. So that's about that. I think John have another question. He was using his hand.
Yeah. Please go ahead, John.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to say, if you like, just like an int, if you want to share your code on YouTube, probably because there was a part you showed your Spotify credentials, so you can just blow that out.
Okay. So the beautiful thing about Spotify credentials is that I can I would delete the application after days, so it can be rotated and all those things. So it's not really like a big kind of credential.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So, but I understand what you're saying. So after deleting the application, the client ID and the client secret become invalid, and the token itself expires. So it's not a credential that can be acted upon. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks for putting that out. And let me just ask. I just want to ask one question from our trainer. Am I permitted to?
Yeah.
Ask?
Yeah. Please go ahead.
So, do you mind if you share your screen one more time?
Okay.
Where you constructed your function for the ETL.
Okay.
So supposing you wrote your function for your extract, your transformation, then for your load, and you now wrap everything together into the ETL pipeline function. Now, at the point where you are doing your extraction, let's say this is a large project, like it's a whole lot of data, and you have three processes, which is the extract phase, the transform phase, and the loading phase. So let's say at a point in time when you extracted the data, the extraction part was successful, and it was at the transform part the code broke, and it threw an error. So let's say the data was of like 50 million records, or 100 million records at a time, and probably that would have taken like 1 hour to actually extract. I'm just saying for instance, and the code broke at the transform stage. It means that if you fix the issue, you have to run it all over again. So, as an experienced person, how do you think we are going to like undo that issue?
Okay. You actually asked like multiple questions in one. So now, but the main question is that when something happens, one should avoid like rerunning successful steps. Is that correct? That is the main question. How to
Yeah, yeah.
how to start from how to start from where to start. So out of the box, I'm trying to do that with Python. So some might say that maybe if you are writing, so let's say after you extract, maybe you write it, then you pass in the path to transform, then transform picks it in and transform it and write it out again, then load takes in and do that. So even if you go through that route now, if the transform should fail because of it's Python and just using Python and maybe with cron job now, extract will still run again. Or transform will still, well, okay, maybe I see it now. You might maybe add a flag to check if the file exists to skip it. But I mean, while explaining, I think that is a way to actually make sure that something that has happened don't get rerun. So to answer your question now, I think I've gotten the answer. So when you extract, right, you can. So before you even extract, you will check that okay, as an extract been done before. So if an extract has been done before, you proceed. You won't extract. You just proceed. Then the transformation would take in the extracted file. Is going to have a path to extracted file. It's going to transform it. It's going to write it out again. Then load does the same thing. So and for the transformation tool can also check okay as the data also be transformed before. So all these things can either be maybe you're checking the file or maybe you have a flag for each of them just to know okay as extraction run before or as transformation run or something like that. So you can be writing this to you can be writing this to maybe local storage or maybe a cloud bucket just to have this thing so that you can avoid um, you can avoid wasting computing resources running the same thing over and over again. So and one other things that is always good to have in code is alerts. And in this pipeline now, alert was not done. So alert usually goes with what we call error handling. So, and with error handling now, it now comes to what we talk about retry. So, and we have different techniques for retry, but the common one is what we call exponential backup now. So let's say I work with some APIs that when you're sending requests, maybe one might fail, maybe because of you're sending too many requests. But if one should fail now, you don't want the application to stop. So when it fails now, you will pause. It will give you some time. The API should rest. Then after it has rested for maybe like 5 or 10 seconds, you send the same request that failed again. So that is the retry. So now the retry, and I say exponential backup now. So what I mean by exponential backup is that, so let's say you send a request now, it fails. Maybe you wait for 5 seconds. You send another one, it failed again. So instead of waiting for 5 seconds, you increase the time that you are waiting. So that is basically it, exponential backup. You're increasing the wait time on every failure. So I said that I've mentioned three things. I've talked about error handling. You would want to undo error to, okay, if I'm sending a request, say try, I would have accept, and for the specific error, I can say accept a specific error. This is not an actual error, but now if this should happen, it should do something. Then, so this is an example of error handling, and error handling goes with alerting. So when you are handling errors, you want to incorporate alerts. So an example of alerts would be a send Slack message based on an error occurred during the extraction. Then you pass in the error message. So when an error happened now, you are notified that, oh, during extraction, this error happened, and this is the error message. So that, okay, maybe that the API is down. And when the API is down now, you might want to, oh, your API is down, can you fix it? It is breaking my pipeline or something like that. So error handling, retries, and alerts. So those are the things that you want to build into your pipeline. And another one that is very, very good, but it can be costly depending on the configuration, is logging. So let's say something happens within the pipeline now, something is breaking, but you know the area it is breaking, but you can't actually pinpoint the exact area where the thing is breaking. But with logs now, if you are logging the actions that you are taking, you should look at the logs now. You'll be able to tell, okay, looking at the logs now, there's a part that was skipped here. You'll be able to like trace it to narrow down the problem area. So error handling, you want to implement like robust error handling, and you want to add alerts into your pipeline so that you know what exactly is happening. So to avoid a situation whereby your pipeline would have stopped running for like 5 days, you won't even know. Is somebody else out there, oh, our dashboard is not up to date, it's showing last week. So, but with alerts, you can have that login. So why I say that login can be costly is that if your logs is not being rotating, if you're like on AWS where you're logging things are going to CloudWatch. So I mean you're paying for it, and when the application is running, it's generating a lot of logs. It can be accumulating costs. But I think CloudWatch rotates. Is the one rotates now? Maybe after some time it swipes off, something like that. But in some places whereby the log will just keep piling, you just be paying money for a log that you are not using. So error handling, we try alerts. So the alerts can be about sending a Slack message or maybe an email. So another thing that's also with robust pipeline is collecting metadata. So that was not done here. So what do I mean by collecting metadata now? So if I'm running a pipeline, so if I'm pulling data from Spotify, I should know how many records was pulled, when the pipeline started, when it ended, and there's some other metrics that you can get that you can send. You can send it to yourself by maybe through email or maybe through Slack message, just so you have a metric or a metadata about the pipeline run. So if you are moving data from a database now, maybe you are doing an incremental load, you might want to know, okay, how many tables was copied in each table, how many rows was copied for each of the table, and some other things. There are some other metrics that you can add in your metadata. You want to collect all these things just to know what exactly is happening in your pipeline.
All right. Thanks, Joseph, for your inputs to and clarifications to the questions and additional responses to those contents that we need to build an ETL pipeline. So I think without wasting much of our time, I will just probably ask our audience or participants if they have any more questions. And if there are no more questions, I believe we can call it a day, and you can just send a clap reaction to appreciate our trainer for taking his time to be on this call. And all right, thank you guys. So with that being said, I don't know if you joined late and probably you missed the WhatsApp community invite link. I'm going to send that again. So you can join the WhatsApp community invite, Orbit Learning community, in order to like get updates on when we have community trainings and some specific trainings that speaks to your data role, whether you're a data scientist, your data engineer or analyst and stuff like that. So I'm going to send the invite again. So if you want to join, you can just click on the invite link and join the community. All right, so I dropped that just now. So if you want to join, you can join. You can join now. All right, so I think we can call it a day. Thank you, Joseph, for taking your time out to enlighten us on building ETL pipeline with Python. Really appreciate your time. Thank you very much for coming. All right.
All right. Okay.
Let us
Bye.
all
Cheers.
enjoy the rest of our day and weekend. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye.
Bye. Bye.